Okay, got it. Sorry about this. First time using this almost, so I'm just... Right, okay.
Perfect.
I think that's us. Okay, so can I dare say you can all hear me? Yeah, so first, many thanks to Chris for organising this chat with you guys. I'm delighted to be talking to you all. And for the teachers for organising this, but mainly for all of you pupils there for having an interest in engineering. And hopefully after today, you'll be a little bit more clued up in the world of engineering. So, as Chris said, I work at a place called AFRC, and that stands for the Advanced Forming Research Centre. Now, what we do there is we research things, and research means that we try to find new ways of doing things. For example, so maybe someone like Rolls-Royce who make parts for aeroplanes, maybe they have a problem in the process and they'll come to us and ask us to help them solve that problem. So if you think of us like a bridge between academia, which is universities and schools, etc. So that's academia, and industry. Rolls-Royce is the industry partner, and we are the bridge between that gap. And we work very closely with all these people, trying to help them with their engineering problems. So, without further ado, let's move on. So, welcome to the world of engineering. I'm not sure if how many of you know much about engineering or what you do know. It's not just one subject. Once you're an engineer, then that's you an engineer for life. There's many different aspects to engineering, meaning that there's just many different types of jobs within engineering. So, what exactly is an engineer? It's a very good question, I think. An engineer is someone who is observing a lot. That means that they're just looking around, picking things up, understanding things, always wanting to be creative. So when you guys are doing your drawings and your art, etc., that's you being creative. So that's an aspect of engineering, is by using your creative minds to make new things, to create new drawings and things like that. And what an engineer does, he'll take that further. And if you draw something, for example, the engineer will take that further and perhaps create the actual thing that you've drawn. And engineers must ask questions. Okay, so even your most intelligent engineers that have walked on this planet back in the old days with Einstein and Tesla to current modern day, Elon Musk, all these sort of guys who are entrepreneurs, guys who are always looking to advance things and look for the next big thing in technology. These guys always ask questions. Okay, so never be afraid to ask questions. I ask questions every single day. I don't always get the right answer, but I need to ask because I don't know myself. Not everyone knows everything. Okay, so you also need to sometimes stop talking. And I'm sure your teachers will be a fan of that. And sometimes you need to just listen. So if you listen, that's when you learn. Okay, and also by asking questions, you learn as well. Sometimes we need to just zip it and listen and learn, guys. Okay, so an engineer is someone who does all that, and basically someone like you guys. Okay, but what makes an engineer an engineer? So having that creative mind, as we talked about, wanting to work with other people. So not being afraid to go and work with someone that you've never met before. That's called relationship building, just like you've got relationships with your friends. When you guys start your working careers, which is a while away yet, I know, but your network, that's basically the people that you'll get to know through work. That's what will help you succeed in your working career by choosing a very careful network and being willing to work with these guys and share. So if you've got an idea and someone else has got an idea, so between you both, that's you get two ideas now instead of one. So if you can work together, you can create some very wonderful things. So that's what it's about. It's about creating relationships as well. Okay, doke. And there are many different types of engineers, and I'm a manufacturing engineer, and that means that But I design things, but I also make things. So, for example, when I worked in Rolls-Royce, I know most people think of Rolls-Royce as cars, but I worked for Rolls-Royce Aerospace. So we were making parts for engines, and I worked in various stages of that engine. So inside an aeroplane engine, you've got lots of parts. I think there's 30,000 blades, they're called, and that's these things that spin round and round, and they squash down the air is in the engine. And then if you add fuel to that, so fuel is your petrol, and you set that on fire, that's you creating jet power. And that's how an aeroplane can take off, because of the force of the jet power. Now you've also got design engineers. So that's the guys who, if you want a new bike or whatever, someone has designed that bike. No one just grabbed a few bits of metal and threw them all together and stuck them together. Someone had to design that, so they knew what type of metal to use, what type of metal not to use, which is just as important. If you pick a poor metal and you sit on the bike might fold on you and break. So it's very critical what materials that you pick. Materials are all your metals and your alloys and your plastics. You've got civil engineers who work in the construction industry, building bridges and buildings and things like that. You've also got software engineers. So you guys will see that I put up a couple of pictures of Fortnite there. I don't play it. I get asked that every single time I present. I don't play it. I've got 3 daughters of my own, but none of them play it yet. So the guys who designed Fortnite have obviously done a very good job, because it's a very popular game now. So they're a very good example of what you would call excellent software engineers. They've created this program, and everybody seems to be playing it. Everyone apart from myself and my own three daughters. And then you've got computer engineers, which is similar, so guys who are designing computers. You've got agricultural engineers working in the sort of farming industry, etc., and food industry. So don't just think that engineers are guys who stick nuts and bolts together. Okay, there's many different types of engineer. It's very, very interesting, and I've been involved in a lot of different types of engineering. But I will always be a manufacturing engineer, because that's what I was trained in by Rolls-Royce. Okay, doke. So now you guys are all the next generation of people that are coming into the world, and you might think that just by being one person that you can't change things. Well, you can. One person can change the world, and many of you all know that plastic straws were a big problem there, and they still are, to be honest. But the problem's diminished quite a lot, as in the problem's almost gone now, and that was one little girl that managed to change that, because she made a comment about plastic straws, and someone said, "Why don't you take a straw with your drink?" And she said, because I want to look after the planet. And her friend said to her, "But it's only one straw." And she said, "Yeah, but that's what 8 million other people said." So by that one statement, David Attenborough heard about it, and David Attenborough's the guy that's always on telly looking after all the animals. And when he tends to care about something, he does something about it. And he heard about that, and within about 2 weeks, plastic straws were almost gone. If you walk into some restaurant now, you'll probably get a cardboard straw, you know, the one that lasts about half a drink, and then it breaks up in your drink. But it's better than a plastic straw. Okie doke. So just keep that in mind, guys. Sometimes, I think young people come up with the best ideas ever, because you keep things simple. Whereas when you become like us, older, we tend to complicate things, including our own lives sometimes. So you guys keep things nice and simple, and that's the way you think about things too. When you're thinking about stuff to make, changes to make to something, keep it simple, because quite often the most simple ideas are the most effective. And if it's a simple idea, it has a much better chance of taking off, because you'll be able to get other people involved in it much quicker than it being complicated. So don't be afraid to be speaking out. If you've got an idea in your head, have a word with your teacher, speak to her. If you don't want to speak out in front of all the class, you can speak to your teacher on your own, and your teacher then can contact us at the FRC or contact Primary Engineer who's organised all this wonderful event. So just keep that in mind, that one person, as in you, can change the world. Okay, doke. I hope that's been all right for you guys. I don't want to keep it going too long, because I know we've got quite a lot of Q&A going on now. So I'll say thank you for listening to me. I hope it was nice and clear for you, and I hope you've learned something, and now you can feel free to ask me what you like. Keep it simple. Okay. Cheers, guys.
Brilliant. Thanks, Gerry. I think the questions are coming through thick and fast already.
Okay, so did I just stop sharing now, Chris?
Yeah, please, mate. So that way you that's it. Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, right. Okay, so
it's Highgate homeschool first, I think.
Okay, so I'm just looking for. Right. Okay. So everyone can still hear me, okay? Yeah. I'm just.
Yep.
So the first question I can see here is where we looked at your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Do you prefer engineering or photography, and what made you stop engineering? Well, I haven't actually stopped. That's Grace from P5 and Highgate Homeschool. So everyone has passions in life, Grace. One of my passions in life is photography. So that's what I do when I need to go out and get some of time on my own. So I like going into the wilderness and capture some photography. It's very good therapy, which means it's just very good for relaxing and unwinding. So yeah, photography is my passion, but so is engineering. I think once an engineer, always an engineer. So I hope that's answered your question. Let's see here what I've got now. Okay, so some question from Loughton. How long have you been working for? And what's the strongest material that you have used? So I've been working. So I'm 49 years old. I know you're probably quite amazed at that. I thought I was a lot younger, but I'm only 49. So I've been working since the day I left school, which was 16. So I left school at 16, so that's me been working 33 years. Is that right? Yep. And the strongest material that I've worked with is a steel called SCMV, sorry. It's a special Rolls-Royce material, which stands for super chromium molybdenum vanadium. I know that makes me sound clever, but it's not. I've just got a good memory for materials. And that's a very, very tough material that's used in aerospace industry. So for sending things up into the sky, it's very, very strong. And that's the hardest material that I have worked with. It was so tough to work with, actually, that the makers of the machine told us that the material would break the machine, but we proved them wrong, and we managed to form that material. So that was obviously very good research carried out. Did you go to college or university? I went to college. So I'll be honest, so when I went to school, I wasn't very good at school. So when I came out of school, I was still very lucky to get a position in engineering. But then I went into working in cars, so I worked in car mechanics for 4 years. I also trained as a mechanic. And then I eventually left engineering completely, but went back to it. And when I came back to it, Rolls-Royce offered to put me through further education. So at 40 years old, that's when I went back to college and carried out further education. But if I could turn back the clock, I would get all my qualifications when I was meant to get them. Okay, so what I'm saying is basically you need to stick in at school, primary and secondary. You need to get your maths and your English and all that if you want to come into the world of engineering. And I'm by no means a maths expert or anything like that. I had to end up getting extra tuition for that. So I think if I can do maths, pretty much anyone can. So pretty sure all you guys could. And if you hadn't pursued this career, what else would you have done? do you enjoy your job? That's a good question. What would I have done? I have done so many jobs, honestly. Let me think. I'd like to think that I would have done something with photography, because I've done it a very long time. I actually teach photography as well, so I teach landscape workshops and portraiture workshops when I've got time. But sometimes it's very difficult with 3 children, working full-time at the university and launching the new research centre, which we've just done. I was part of a very small team, just did that. And I also run my own company outside of here. So I run a company and we take people into the wilds and into the forests, and we get people to connect with Mother Nature again. I think as a generation, we're forgetting just how powerful Mother Nature can be in helping people. So that's what I do as well. So I'd like to think either photography or involved with my own business called Fire and Peace, which is taking people into the wilds, teaching people how to connect with Mother Nature, how to make fire. It's basically wild camping with some therapy added in there, some relaxation time. And yes, I do enjoy my job. It's very challenging, and it's not the kind of job where you can finish at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock and go up the road and forget about it, because I'm so involved in it that I sometimes think about it at night, and I can quite often waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning with another idea in my head. So, and sometimes I've got to write it down because I forget it by the time I get up at 6 o'clock. How many hours? P5 Ardeer would like to know how hard it is to become an engineer. So it's not easy, okay? But if you put in the effort, you can become an engineer, okay? It's all about effort, guys, and that applies to everything in life. You'll get out of it what you put in. So if you work hard to become an engineer and you speak to the right people, so you're asking and you're listening all the time, which I was talking about earlier on, not just about talking all the time. Anyone can do it because it isn't easy, but it's also not hard. But the effort's there. You've got to put in the effort, and if you put in the effort, I can guarantee you that yes, you can be an engineer. Obviously, it depends on what type of engineer. Some types of engineering are more difficult than others to get into. How many hours do you work in a day? Why did you choose to be an engineer? Okay, so I work 4 days a week, but what I do is I compress 5 days into 4 days, which means I work from 8 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock at night. But then I get every Friday off, and that gets me time to spend with my own family. So I get to take my children to school in the morning, and I get to pick them up, which is very important to me. So that's why I don't mind working extra hours Monday to Thursday, to get that quality time with my own family on a Friday. And why did I choose to be an engineer? That's a good question, because I've always been very interested in how things work. So I'll give you an example. When I was very young, maybe 5 or 6 years old, my younger sister got this doll which could speak on Christmas Day. So I was fascinated by this doll, and then as soon as she was away from that doll, I took it, sneaked off with it, and smashed it to pieces to find out how it talked. I could not understand how anything could speak that wasn't a human being. So I smashed this dolly up with my tool set, only to find a speaker inside, which obviously didn't shed much light on it. So I've always been very interested in how things work. I think if you know how something works, then I think you can use it better. So, for example, if you understand how a car engine works, I think it might make you a better driver. But better watch what I'm saying there. How did you get... let's see what we've got now. Sorry, I'm just reading these out. They're coming in quite quickly. So, what was your favourite subject at school? Okay, that's a good question. My favourite subjects at school, I was actually quite rubbish at them, so it was quite annoying. I love science, so I was really interested in physics and chemistry and biology, but mainly physics, because I love astronomy, which means I love the stars and the planet and all that. So there's a lot of mathematics in and that. So the subjects I really liked, I wasn't very good at them at school, but that didn't stop me. That didn't stop my passion for them. So there's other ways around things. And how do you research, everyone? This is from Barry Green. No, Leon P3, I think, sorry. How do you research things? What do you use? So that's a good question, Leon. And as I was saying earlier on, so we are at the university, which is the Advanced Form and Research Centre is part of the university. So so someone will come to us. It could be Rolls Royce, it could be one of the car companies, for example. Let's just say it was BMW, and they have a problem with a component. With a component, I just mean a part of the engine and a part of the car, and they might need to change something about that. So maybe it's too expensive to make at the moment. Maybe it's too heavy. So they'll come to us, and they'll come to us with their engineers, our engineers. So we all get together around a table, and it's called a brainstorming session. So you've got all these people in a room, all engineers normally. Most of the people are engineers, and we basically start drawing things down, just like you guys do. Draw things up on the board, on paper. When you see the very beginning stages of a new project, it's very, very messy. Okay, and that's like every project. It's very messy to start off with. But what you start doing is you start shaping that up. You start streamlining it, it's called. So you pick out all the main things from it, and then you keep narrowing it down and down until you get something very, very specific and something that you can focus on. And that's the way you start researching projects and components. That's a question about shifts again there. Okay, sorry. So that's a good question. Have you ever had a problem that you have not been able to overcome? Yes. But that was very frustrating. So at the research centre, we get given certain types of materials. So when I say materials, again, what I'm talking about is different types of steels. You get stainless steels, you get irons, you get titanium, various things like that. So one of the processes I was working on required us to try to cold form something. So when I say cold form, what I mean is taking metal and squeezing it so hard that you're actually changing its shape. If you try and grab a bit of metal just now with your hands, obviously you can't move it. But when you apply a lot of force to that through a machine, the material can actually start to move. So one project was working with titanium, and we really struggled to try and form titanium. It kept snapping all the time. Very, very brittle material, very strong, very light, but very difficult to form. So the customer didn't want to spend any more money on it because they were too afraid that they were going to spend all this money and not be able to form it. I think we could have done it if they'd given us more time, but it wasn't our money, it was the customer's money, so we've got to do what they say. So that's a bit of a bugbear with me. I always wanted to form titanium, and one day I will. Okay, so, good question. Have you ever had any second thoughts about becoming an engineer? Madine P5. So, second thought, no, because it's led to various things in my life. It's not just always been engineering. When you become an engineer, it can open up so many other doors for you. And that's what I was talking to you about earlier on, about creating relationships with people. So being friendly with people, being understanding, listening to their problems. And when you pull a lot of people into the room that's got that attitude, then you can achieve great things. Sometimes being an engineer can be very tiring, just like any job. I'm sure teachers would agree on that one. So I don't have second thoughts about being an engineer, but sometimes it's tough, just like any job, when you think, what if I did this, what if I did that? But we are where we are, and we've made the decisions that we make. So no, I don't have any regrets over that. What's your favourite part about engineering? I guess the unknowns. So being part of research and development is very interesting because you're creating new things, you're getting to use your mind, you're really being allowed the reins, if you want to call it. So that just what I mean by that is you're allowed to use your imagination. Whereas when I was in Rolls-Royce, it was manufacturing, engineering, production lines. So we are monitoring all the parts all the time. There's nothing changes. All the design work was done down in Derby, down in England, and we just made the parts. So we're very limited in using our imagination there. So at the Advanced Form and Research Centre in the university, we get to use our brains a lot. That's why at night time I'm in my bed by 8:30 sometimes. So, what primary school did you go to? I went to two, because I used to live in Carnmordrick in Glasgow. I went to St Vincent's, and then I went to St John's in Barrhead. When did you know you wanted to be an engineer, and what made you become an engineer? From NATE, P4, Doonfoot. Just like I was saying before, I think wanting to understand how things work. If you were to give me something when I was young, I wanted to know what was inside it. I wanted to know how parts could move, how it could speak. That's why I smashed up my sister's dolly. And yeah, I think I've just always had a fascination with understanding how things work and to create things myself. Do you have to wear a specific uniform? That's Neve P5. No, I now work in business development, which means that although I'm a manufacturing engineer, I now create relationships with organisations. So I try to pull the correct people into the room at the same time, so that we can all create collaborative projects. Collaborative just means everyone comes together. So I just need to be smartly dressed. I might not look like it today because I just have a jumper on. Okay. How many times do you have to do things before you get them right? That's a good question. Sometimes you get things right very quickly because you've done something similar before. If you're doing something brand new, like a new material, like the titanium I was telling you about, for example, that could take a long time because because the machines we work with can be quite complex and quite difficult to operate. So they've got a lot of different things going on in them. So sometimes it can take a long time. I know you're saying what is a long time. So for example, the titanium project lasted for 3 months and we still didn't get it right. But I think another month or two and we could have done it. And then sometimes you just get lucky. Sometimes I think you're better to be lucky in life than good. So again, you can be lucky. You can put the right things into the machine and you can get the right answers back. What was your first engineering project? So I'm assuming that means when I actually started full-time work. My first time project with the university, my first project was, let me think now. Yeah, I was working on something called shear forming. I was working with one of the PhD students from the university, and what she was trying to do was squash metal that was very, very thick. She was trying to squash it right down to it was very, very thin. And that was a big challenge because it had never been done before. Again, the machine maker said to us that you'll break the machine, but we proved them wrong again. So that was very exciting. Is engineering well paid? It can be, yeah, but I've never been a person to chase money, to be honest. I look for a balance in life. So for me, money's far from everything. It's a lot. It'll put food on the table, and it'll pay for your car and your house and your toys, etc., your luxuries. But for example, I could leave this job and go to another job and factory production lines again and get a lot more money, but I would never do it again because you end up working a lot of crazy shifts. Early shift, back shift, you're working night shift, you get very well paid for it, but you don't have much of a life. So yes, it is well paid. What's your favourite thing you've worked on? From primary. Favourite thing, what's my favourite thing? I'm trying to think. I've been involved in that many. I think when we achieved something for a French company, I can't really say their name, but it was a very sensitive project. We had to take a material and they asked us if we could stretch it for them. So this is a metal, a very, very strong metal that they expected to maybe stretch by about 200%. That's what they were really hoping to achieve. But we managed to stretch that material 300%. So we took it 3 times its original length. So that was very exciting for us, and we learned so much from it. And the customer was also very happy because we exceeded their expectations. What's your favourite part in your new job? Darcy P5, All Saints. I guess is meeting new people all the time. So every week I meet new people and I find out whereabouts they can fit in the projects and to understand their skills. So, for example, just what they can offer. Do you like working with people? Yes, I love working with people. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I left Rolls-Royce. Although I was working with people in there, it was the same people every single day, which is fine. But I just needed a change. Yeah, but I love to work with people. What part of your job gives you a thrill? P5 or deer? Part of the job gives you a thrill. Yeah, a lot of it. I think creating the projects, creating exciting projects, and making sure that you put the right people into the right project. If I take someone that's not passionate about the subject, so that's someone that's not very interested in something you're going to give them, then they'll do the job for you, but they might not do the job to the best of their ability. So you need to find out that person's best skill set and put them into the position within the project that you think they'll give their best. And when you do that with someone, you can walk away and leave them. You don't have to watch them all the time because you know they're passionate about it and they're going to give it their best. So I like doing that. I like working very closely with people. Have you created anything from scratch? Our dear P5. So let me think. I need to think about that one actually. I suppose if I speak about outside of engineering, and I spoke earlier on about my own company, Fire and Peace, I've spent so much time in the wilds. I spend a lot of time outside, so I've pretty much camped out in every weather condition that you can think of. I've been in an expedition up into the Arctic. So when I came back here, I started practicing everything I had learnt when I was in the Arctic. And one thing I designed myself was a shelter. So at the moment, I'm just going through the design process of that. And also, I'll be trying to get that patented, or at least a design copyright on it so that no one else can make it, although it probably will be remade by someone else. But yeah, so I've designed my own shelter, which I'm working on at the moment outside of my engineering job. Again, that's another aspect of engineering. Let's see. Were you interested in engineering when you were in primary school? Yes, always interested. I didn't know then, I don't think that I was going to be an engineer. I was always interested in space and things like that, space flight and spaceships and all that. So I guess I probably thought I might have been an astronaut, but no, I don't even think I could be an astronaut. I think I'm a bit scared going up into space, but yeah, I've always been interested in engineering. I just didn't realise at that time that that's what I was going to be. Good question here from Christophe from Primary. Have you ever felt like you needed to give up, that a project was too hard? Let me think. I wouldn't say that I've ever given up on a project, no. And it's not that it's too hard, it's what can be the hardest thing to deal with is limitations on a project. So we don't have a huge amount of money to spend sometimes we've only got a limited budget. By that I mean maybe the customer's giving us £2,000 to spend or something like that, or £10,000, whatever. And we get to the end of that money when we've learned a lot, but we want to take it to the next stage, to roll that across into the next stage. But sometimes the money's just not there to do that. So that's when it gets frustrating. So you want to carry on, but you can't. I wouldn't say you ever feel like giving up or that it's too hard. It's more frustrating than anything else. And so Glamis Primary from Lucy. What projects have you worked on where the end product cost a lot of money? So that would be down to aerospace industry. So when I'm talking about aerospace, I'm talking about aeroplanes flying in the sky. So some components for aeroplanes are very, very expensive. So millions of pounds, these projects. So that's not just to produce one item. That's the whole process going through that. There's a project sitting just now that's just coming into the university with other joint universities. So I think there's about 5 of us part of that, and that's £28 million. So yeah, a lot of money. But for that £28 million, they're going to get fantastic research from that will then be rolled out into the automotive industry. So you'll start to see all this work being done in cars. Everyone probably knows about electric vehicles and things like that now. So that's what this project's aimed around. Is reducing the emissions going into the skies, try and keep our planet clean. And yeah, it's a very interesting project. I might be involved in that at a later stage, possibly. What material is your favourite to use and work with? I guess the material that we stretched to 300%. So because we got to do so much work on that, we got to understand that material very, very well. And now I can carry that information across into various other projects. It was just a type of steel. I'm not allowed to say what type of steel it was, because what happens is when we do these projects with the customer, so when I say the customer, I mean like Rolls-Royce, Boeing, Safran, one of these guys that make all the landing gear. When we carry out a project with them and we find all this information out, that information belongs to them. So it means that we can't just go and start working with one of their competitors. So we need to be very secretive about that, and we're not allowed to give that information out, otherwise we'd be in a lot of trouble. Okay, so did you ever consider going into the Navy to do engineering? JP4. No, J, because I'm actually quite afraid of the sea. Well, when I say I'm afraid of drowning. And there's something about boats and water that just kind of scare me a little bit. So I never thought of getting into the Navy, but my uncle was in the Navy. He was an engineer in the Navy. Funnily enough, you should ask that. And so was one of my best friends. Dad was also in the Navy all his life. What's the biggest project you have worked on? Isla at Glamis Primary School. So biggest project, I think some of the Rolls-Royce projects when we're trying to create the drive shafts for the engines. These are big projects worth millions of pounds. Would you say you were successful as an engineer? Oliver, P4. I like your direct approach, Oliver. That will serve you well in life, pal. Would you say you were successful as an engineer? Okay, yeah, I'll say yes to that, okay? And the reason being is I've worked in so many different jobs now that I don't gauge success on how many people I know or anything like that. I gauge success on what comes in through that door. So when we launched this new centre, the light weighting centre, we were a very small team, and I had never done anything like this before in my life, so this was a big challenge for me, and I knew that we were being watched by our big bosses, so I took on the project along with my team lead, and together with another few guys, we launched the new light weighting centre. And that's actually quite a difficult thing to do because you don't have any history to say, well, we've done this project before and that was good, we've done that project and that was good. So we had no projects to say that we've done before. So we managed to pull in so far about £2 million worth of projects within about a year and a half. So I think we could call that a success, yeah. I'm looking at I've got 90 new messages here, so I'm doing my best, guys. I apologise if I'm missing these. It's all going in quite quickly. Okay, so this is Barry Green. I'm not. I've got a few here. Yeah, so hang on. Sorry. How do you know if you have the right parts to put together? Aaron, P4. So again, Aaron, that's just done by having the right people in the room at the right time. When you've talked about all this sort of stuff before, you don't just go and pull lots of unknown parts together and stick them together. The chances are it will fail. You need to understand what you're putting together and why. What's the purpose of the object, and what's it designed to do. If it's just going to sit somewhere in a room and never move like an ornament, then you'll find that it's not that critical. But if it's going to be a bike or a scooter or a skateboard, it's going to have someone on it. If something goes wrong, they could hurt themselves. So all that work is done beforehand. See, when you worked at Rolls-Royce, did they give you a car to drive, Aaron, P4? So I worked for Rolls-Royce Aerospace, and we didn't have any Rolls-Royce cars there. But when I talked earlier on about mechanics, I actually served my time on Rolls-Royce cars, believe it or not. So I worked on Rolls-Royce, Bentleys and Range Rovers. That was a franchise of the garage. So although I didn't get to drive a Rolls-Royce, I got to be a passenger in one many times. Have you ever had a different job? Jack, P4. Yeah, I've had many jobs, Jack. Yeah, so my problem is that I can get bored quite quickly. So unless I'm on the go all the time, unless my brain's working. So when I talked about Rolls-Royce, I was very well paid there, but my brain just wasn't being stimulated enough for me. So I left Rolls-Royce and I took a substantial pay cut when I went to the university. But it meant I was getting into a job that I'd be doing research and I would be using my brain on a daily basis, because the brain's just a big muscle and it must be used just like the muscles in your arms and legs. Have you ever designed a large building like a college or university? That's Mackenzie at Glamis Primary. No, personally, I haven't, no, because I'm not a civil engineer or an architect. My brother-in-law is a civil engineer and he's involved in a project down in London, but no, I haven't designed anything like that. Do you make any online games? Callum, P4. I'm not a software engineer. I was an online gamer myself, so I did play online games for a long time. Yeah, a little bit too long, to be honest, but I'm not a software engineer. Why did you disassemble your sister's doll, Caden, P4? Sorry if I've upset you there, Caden. Because I was so interested in how this doll could possibly talk. I even remember the doll's name. It was called Hi Dottie. And I was going back to, I must have been 5 or 6 years old. Yeah, so I smashed it up to see how it worked. Yeah, I've never been allowed to forget that. How much stuff have you made? Lots, lots. I guess that's quite a kind of blunt answer, but I've worked in Rolls-Royce, the car garages, but mainly between Rolls-Royce and the university. I've been involved in so many projects. What's the most difficult thing you've ever built? I guess some of the processes I worked on in Rolls-Royce are quite complex. So when we worked on it's called the Trent XWB engine. That's the extra wide body engine. It was a very complex engine to work with, and we had to make the components for the engines. So that was quite difficult and took a lot of time to put together. So that's one of the most difficult things that I've worked on. And have you ever built a robot? I'm trying to think, have I? I don't think so. Certainly not with the university, but we do have automation engineers in here who work with robots all the time. But I've personally never built a robot. I used to build remote control cars, big ones, which I suppose are kind of robot. What are you working on just now? Oof. Have you got the rest of the afternoon? I'm working on a lot just now. Because I'm working in business development, but I'm also a manufacturing engineer, I scope out all the projects. So that means that I speak to all the customers, I find out what's wrong, or what the problems are, and I take all that information, and I then pull in the people from my end, and together we can create a very, very strong team. So I'm working on a lot of stuff just now. One of the things that this centre does, the new centre that I'm working in just now, it's only just opened in the last week or so, so it's very new in here, and we're all still finding our own feet just now, is the light weighting of the wind turbines that you'll see if you're driving about. You'll see the big wind farms. So we're trying to lighten the weight of one of these big blades you see spinning around. These blades are very, very heavy. Barry Green, how good are you at your job? Kale, P3, how good are you at your job? Maybe ask my boss that one. And someone else on the same scale. Lucinda, P4, do you have a boss? Yes. Well, he's a good guy. He's a really good guy. We've launched this centre as part of a small team, so we had to all get on together to make the centre work and to give it the best chance of success. So I like to think that I'm pretty good at my job, without sounding like a big head. How do engines work? Lydia from Doonfoot. How do engines work? Okay, so a car engine, for example, what it does is it pulls in, it's got suction, and suction pulls air into the chamber. So that's like it pulls air and petrol into a chamber. Okay, and once it's pulled it down the chamber, then it pushes it back up. And when it pushes it back up, it compresses it. So it goes like from this down to that. And then when you compress something and then you add a spark to that, it goes in fire. Okay, so when it goes in fire, what happens is the piston fires back down again. And that method keeps on going and keeps on going. And that's all attached to something called a crankshaft. And that's, without getting too complicated here, that all works together. If I ever get to see you guys, I'll draw it up on a board somewhere, and I'll try to explain it and keep it as simple as possible. So there's a difference between a car engine and an aircraft engine. One is a continuous stroke, so that's like a jet engine, which is continuous, whereas a car engine is called a stroke. So it strokes up and it strokes down. Do you recommend being an engineer? Yes. If you're interested in how things work, you want to change things, you want to make things better, and you want your brain to be engaged all the time, then yes, engineering. As I said, there's many, many different types of engineer, so I'm quite sure that among all the different types, you guys would find something that you're very interested in. What's the oldest piece of technology you use? That would be when I worked in Rolls-Royce. So Rolls-Royce was a brand new factory, £95 million it cost to build it. In 2003, I think it launched. And in that factory, when I first went in, one of the first things that I saw was a very, very old piece of machinery. And I said, what's that doing in here? He said, well, that's been used since before the war. So that was been used since like the 1930s. And the reason they keep using it is because it does such a good job in a very complex part. So that was the oldest bit of equipment I ever used. So, Doonfoot, thank you for the interesting presentation and taking time to talk to us. It's my pleasure, guys, and it's wonderful to see you all engaged here. I've never spoken to so many of you guys at one time, albeit through a camera, and not being able to actually speak to you in person. So hopefully one day I'll be able to visit you all, and then you can ask me questions face to face, and I can hopefully explain things a little bit better. So, and thank you, our dear. Okay. Thanks, guys. Hope that was all okay. And if there's anything else, please feel free to get in touch with Primary Engineer, and I'll see you all soon. Take it easy and be good.
Okay, are we finishing then, are we?
I don't know, I'm getting a lot of thank yous here. Bye.
We still got a few other schools on, though.
Oh, sorry, right, okay.
Right.
Okay, so I'm trying to find some.
Let's see if...
Yeah, there's so many questions coming in here.
Yeah,
That's a good question. All Saints Primary, you guys still here? Have you ever been fired? No, but I walked out on a job before, basically because my manager just wasn't a very nice guy, to be honest. So I just couldn't work with him any longer. So I walked out. So basically, don't put up with any nonsense. Don't let someone be horrible to you. Okay, tell someone. I was an adult at the time, so I could just walk out, and just get a new job. What is the most famous company you have worked for? Ross, Glamis Primary, most famous company. Okay, so at the moment, we might be involved in, have you heard of SpaceX? So, and that's Elon Musk. And we're working with a company just now who's working with SpaceX, and also the Hyperloop project, which is basically an underground sort of subway station type thing. That we might be involved in that at a very high level. But between that and Rolls-Royce and Boeing, Safran, you've probably not heard of Safran, although they're one of the biggest companies in the world. Yeah, we're working with all these guys, but I guess the names everyone recognises are possibly Rolls-Royce and things like that. What else do we have here? Did you fix your sister's doll after you smashed it? Kai P5. I don't know if you're still here or not, Kai, but no, I'm afraid not. It was beyond all repair. It was I made a very good job at smashing it up. No, I don't think Albert Einstein could have fixed that doll. So, have you ever been injured whilst engineering something? Yeah, it's quite it can be a dangerous environment if you don't pay attention to what you're doing. Obviously, you can be working with things that are very, very hot, and some metals. So if you pick up a bit of steel and you put it in an oven, one of the special ovens, when you take it out, it's glowing red, so you know it's very, very hot. But there's some metals, if you put it into an oven and you take it out, it's just the exact same colour. So I've made the mistake before, a very silly mistake, of going to pick something up without doing the proper checks first, and got a very bad burn. So I have injured myself, but it's always been my own fault, for being a little bit complacent and not for checking things properly.
Sorry, I was just the Hyperloop is fascinating, isn't it? I'm just going to...
Oh yeah, Hyperloop's an amazing project, and it's a bunch of young students from Edinburgh that are wanting to work with Hyperloop.
Right. It's in a vacuum, yeah? So it's a carriage within a tube in a vacuum, and it goes...
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, very high speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating stuff, actually. All Saints Primary again. Thanks for all the questions, guys. You guys are asking good questions. You all are. Do you work on your own or with a team? Yeah, always part of a team. Although my role is to go out and engage and work with customers and find new customers. But then what I do is, as I pull all that information that I get, I pull that information all back to our team, because I can't do it all on my own. I work with some very, very clever people. So someone asks me something, if I don't know the answer, I won't try and guess the answer. I'll end up just sounding silly. But what I'll say to them is I don't know that yet, but I can get back to you on that one. So, yeah, I work as part of a very good team. Do you like to make presentations? Any disasters like losing your voice? Yes, I do like to present. That's from Breadalbane. And I particularly like presenting to young people like yourselves, because I think you guys are the ones that will make all the changes, all the positive changes to our planet and to your lives within the next few decades or so. So I do like presentations, but sometimes you can present to people who just look very, very bored. And some of the presentations that we give, sometimes we need to give them because they need to put the information across, but they're not the most exciting presentations. But today, I haven't lost my voice, not yet. Okay. Let's see what else I've got here.
Okay. If you want to call it a day, Gerry, I think we've hit the time, and I think you've
all right.
Fabulous questions, and you answered. As they said, someone said, you really well answered. Thank you very much. It's brilliant.
No, great, thank you. Great, thanks, Chris.
No problem. So, so we might as well call it a day. The time is up now.
Okay.
And I'll drop you an email. So we have had quite a number of schools, and I'll tell you how many schools and how many pupils I think have been on. Okay. And
okay.
We'll take it from there. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone. I don't know if you can still see me or not, but bye.
Gerry, if you put your cursor towards the bottom of the screen, on the right-hand side, you'll see end meeting, because you're the host.
Oh, right. Oh, sorry. Right. Okay. Yeah.
You can end the meeting now.
Right. Okay. Right. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye. 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 Bye.